Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And here we are already on Tuesday, April the 19th, and their calling number is 646-200-4169. And we already have David and Dr. Tim on the line. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon in your time zone. And Michael, hi.
Hey, good morning. Good morning in my time zone, and good afternoon, gentlemen. If you're new to the show, I'm Michael Ryce, and we're here to support you in learning the ancient Aramaic technology of forgiveness and all the correlating tools that go with it. Dr. Tim is a psychologist from Crystal Lake, just outside of Chicago in Illinois, who runs a support group there. I believe it's every Tuesday. If you're in the Chicago area and you want support, that's the place to go. Dr. Tim is doing some awesome work. And then there's Dr. David, and David is at Heartland, who is the center manager there and holding the space at Heartland and working with folks all over the planet and all over the globe with the tools. So welcome, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Anything exciting to share from your world?
It's rainy and cold up here. So wherever you
Say
are.
again?
It's rainy and cold here. So wherever you are, it's sunny and warm. Stay there.
It is. It's about 75 degrees. We have a nice, cool night here in Las Vegas, and windows open, and the windows are still open. It's pleasantly warm outside. In fact, I'll probably go out and do some of the show from out in the sunshine.
Well,
how about for you, David? Anything exciting in your world? Excuse me, Tim, you started to say something?
No, I was just going to say, let's hear from David.
Yeah.
Is he
Good morning, David.
connected?
Well, David must be having a trouble.
I have him turned on, but he must not. He must have his phone on mute or something. So whenever he's ready to pop in there, he's on.
All right. Well, are there any questions in the chat room while we're hanging out for David, or any other callers, Jeannie?
Nope, not right yet.
All right. Well, Tim, do you have anything in mind in particular this morning?
Well, I just thought it would be, useful to say we've had some wonderful shows recently with people calling in from, basically all over, with wonderful testimonials about how these tools are changing their lives. And I've had all of these years of experience as a psychologist and taking all kinds of trainings for the past 36 years doing therapy in different ways. And the tools that you present are the tools that I'm using in my office for one-on-one sessions and in this therapy group, and clearly get the best, most consistent results. So I just want to add that as a testimonial that I, on a regular basis, offer to people the Reality Management Worksheet tool, the Codependent to Interdependence Worksheet, blend that in with the mind-body energy work that I do, because it literally helps rewrite, it helps me get rid of the garbage that I've been collecting in my thought and in my energy system for decades. So I'm just thrilled that you've presented these tools, and I use them every day in my practice.
Awesome. Well, I'm in agreement. I am so honored and humbled to have found the ancient Aramaic teachings in their original form. It's not something I discovered or something I made up or something I figured out. There was one who was 1,000 times obviously more intelligent than any of us and understood how the system worked and said, here it is, folks, here's how it works, and it's just how it works. Sadly, in a lot of cases, it was turned into something that was fear-based instead of love-based, and the whole idea of the ancient work of Yeshua is conversion. And of course, the non-being mind has what we call the non-being mind has a cheap copy of everything real in the spiritual dimension, and the non-being mind's cheap copy of conversion is, I'm going to bring you into my church. I'm going to convert you to my religion. But in the original sense, the idea of conversion was to take a human being or support a human being who appeared to be a human being but was really living in such hostility and fear that there was no or very little love left in them, and convert that hostility and fear-based mind back to a love-based mind where we're designed to live. You know, if you want to figure out where you're designed to live, just look at a newborn child. You know exactly where you're designed to live. And anything unlike that is a disorder, a dis-ease in the structure. And what we're gathering and sharing with people is, and still, of course, working to understand, because I don't know what I don't know yet from the Aramaic. But there's so much awesome understanding there in terms of how the human mind works, how human physiology works, how our genetics work, how physics works, that we're simply looking to bring those tools and then to support these tools being available. And we're so honored to have this radio show to be able to share with each of you. Thank you to Carol Guy for helping us to get this facilitation set up so that 5 days a week we can share support, and we love to have questions to give a direction to the show. We just love to have your questions. So if there are any refinements, those who are using the tools, and our point is that it's not knowing about the tools, but it's the use of the tools that's important. And so if anybody has any questions, and of course, if you have something to share about what you've experienced, that's awesome too. That certainly, I think, is an inspiration to others to see people who have been, you know, in many cases at the very bottom of the barrel, and days later, I'm out of the barrel. Been in the barrel for years. I'm out of the barrel, and it's just fun to be part of that process.
We actually have someone in the chat room right now, and she said that she is about 30 minutes north of Atlanta, and she has been doing the Building the Brain Cells game. And I asked her if there was anything that she wanted to share about doing that, and she said, I could just share that I had an intense emotional release this morning. I'm feeling really raw, and I'm not quite ready to call in today. So do you have anything to give, advice to give her for that, because she's listening?
Well, I would just offer that I'm delighted that you're feeling raw, because that rawness is what happens when we pull the scab, when we pull the veil off of old hidden wounds and things that never belonged within us. And then to recognize that what that is that you're dealing with is simply an energy from the past. You know, one of the things that we can do when we don't really understand is we can re-empower an old energy by simply believing in it and accepting it. And to remember that a memory of pain is just a memory of pain. And when it reemerges, we can treat it as though it is current events. But to recognize and let yourself feel it, let yourself be in it, and go, here I am experiencing a memory of pain. I'm going to stay connected to love. I'm going to hold the space and move through that layer. And so I acknowledge you for having the courage to do your work, because it does take courage. It is really something that can be so intense to move back through those things. And, of course, the idea of the work isn't to go searching for those things. The idea is to live your life as the active presence of love. And when you're ready to deal with something, life will deliver to you, and that slip of the tongue, love will deliver to you whatever it is that you need to resonate what needs to be looked at next. And if you live in forgiveness, if you live in the space where you're willing to own and move through those things, then layer by layer, they peel off, and you get finished with them. And so we just send our support and our love and hold the space, and we're delighted you're in the process. I got a text from a young lady this morning. We were in Pompano exactly 40 days ago today, and a young lady came up to me at the end of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop in just a huge amount of pain and turmoil and trauma. And in her pain and turmoil and trauma, she asked, what do I do? What do I do? And what I offered was, you do your work. you do worksheets. And so we made an agreement to play the brain cells, building the brain cells game. She agreed to text me daily for 40 days. And this morning I got a text from her, and I'd like to share it with you. It's kind of short, but it is sweet. And here's what she had to say. Thanks for your support and guidance. I have done the 40 days of worksheets, and I will continue to use them as issues come. It seems toward the end of the last week, big stuff came up in my path. I realized it's all about healing. It's all the same stuff. Before, I was living to protect, avoid, or fix the wound. Now I can heal the wound and live from there. All my best. And, sometimes we can re-empower things if we have that old wound by simply claiming it as, well, this is my wound, and I'm in my wound, that we can actually get ourselves locked into that space by kind of giving it a special status. And it has no special status. It's just another frequency in physiology. And when it's exposed to love, it dissolves just like any other. And so be careful that you recognize that memory of pain is a memory of pain. We all go through it. We all move through it. And as you choose to hold the space of love and collapse the projections that come from it, wow, lots of awesome things start to happen. Any other thoughts there in the chat room, Jeannie?
No, she said, I asked her how many days she'd been doing it, and she said today is day 7. And the first thing that came to my mind was 7's the number of completion. So perhaps whatever issue is up for her right now, this is the day of completion for it. So we hold that space for you, that this will be a healing day and that it'll get better from this point forward, and hang in there with it. We also have several other people. We've got someone from New Hampshire, and Nini's on there from Florida. And then we've got several guests who can't comment. And I would just like to put out there one more time, I'll put my email on the chat room as well. If anybody would like to be in contact with us on their, my mind just went totally. If they want
you
to
were
be
talking about how to become
in our database or
guest?
Pardon?
How to move into a status other than a guest where you can't comment?
Right. If they want help in learning how to register, they can email me. But also, if they just want to be like on our mailing list, like if we're going to do some special radio show or something like that, that they can email me, and we'll have a separate like little database of people that are just on the radio show to let them know, what's going on, and so they can do that. And that's at Jeannie, Jeanie, at whyagain, WHYAGAIN.com, Jeannie at whyagain.com. And there is a question, and this is from Nene, and she says, I understand that living out of the non-being mind is resonating and reacting. So when we remove destructive energy and we start to live our dreams and meeting the right people and or the right circumstances, what is that called?
Living out of being. We shift out of non-being into being, and when you choose to say, okay, I'm going to live in being, that's my commitment now.
Michael, you're not connected. Sorry, everybody. He's going to call right back in. Such fun.
Can you hear me, Jeannie?
Yes, I can hear you, but I can't hear anything else going on. And Michael said he was going to call back in. So I'm not sure if the other listeners can still hear us.
Well, I can hear you through the phone, so.
Good. Okay.
I haven't had I guess there's something coming through the radio. I haven't had that on, so.
Right. Michael, are you still on?
I'm here. Yeah, my phone disconnected. I accidentally pushed the button, so my mistake.
Oh, okay. And we do have a caller on the line, area code 267. You're on the air.
Hey, How you doing?
Hi, who we got and who are you calling from?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Welcome.
Welcome to the show.
And your name is?
Alexander.
Hi, Al. Welcome. How
Cool.
can we support you?
Part of something named Charity. She does ministry, and I want to know if it's the person for me.
Could you say that again? I couldn't quite understand your words.
Gurney, part of a family named Charity. Okay. He does ministry. Do you think this is the person for me?
I think he's looking for you to give an answer like foreseeing what's good in his future or something, and that's a different show.
Yeah. I mean, the future. Is she for me or not?
I'm really having difficulty understanding your words. I think
I'm talking to hear me out. I'm talking to a people named Charity. Okay, in the future,
Michael,
he's having a future.
He is. I think he's wanting a Carol guide because he's looking for somebody to tell him if something's okay for him in the future.
Yeah. So I think you're looking for the Angel Talk show that Carol Guy does, and I believe it's on Monday mornings at 9:00. We don't really do the psychic type of thing. That's something that Carol does. So we're doing a different type of show. Well, we're working with the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness, which is
cool. It's cool.
The title of my book is Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And it looks at how to get out of the patterns that we sometimes get stuck into and move into a more conscious, creative space in our lives.
He hung up.
Oh, okay. All right, well, blessings to you, Al. So before I so rudely interrupted myself by pushing the button on my phone and disconnecting it, I was saying that when you decide to live in being, one of the things to be aware of when you decide to go to a space where, all right, I recognize I am the active presence of love, and that's where I choose to live from now on, then something that can be a little on the unpleasant side often happens. And that is everything that's unlike that higher state that you're going for has to start to surface to be removed. And that's why we did a show on Friday, if you want to tap into that one, on what we call the healing crisis, the healing process. And that means that everything that's in you that doesn't leave space for the active presence of being is going to surface, and you're going to get the opportunity to forgive. You're going to get the opportunity to work through those things. And one of the reasons why we've taken on doing this show on a daily basis is to be a community of support. If you don't happen to have one nearby where you are, you might continue or consider starting one. But we're here on a daily basis to offer that support and basically kind of hold your hand and walk you through what's this healing process going to be like. And when stuff comes up and I get lost in it, and as a young lady from north of Atlanta just shared, she's raw. I mean, she's opened that old wound, and in opening it, recognize that in there are memories of pain, and they can be dissolved by bringing forward the active presence of love. And so we're here to support you in that process, and delighted that you're on the show and delighted to have the opportunity, delighted and honored to have the opportunity to share it with you. Has David made it back yet? David, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, good. I got you now, David. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Oh, good morning. I don't know what was going on with the connection. I was listening and I was talking. I thought you guys were hearing me, and then I discovered you weren't. So, it's a beautiful morning here. Very, very windy. It's clear skies and just fabulous. And it's wonderful to hear I believe that the person that was in the chat room is Christina, who's been playing the Building the Brain Cells game. As she said, this is her 7th day. She was on the conference call on Sunday night, and I invite her to acknowledge the work that she's been doing. She actually grasped hold of this. She had received an email on EFT, a newsletter type thing, and she saw where there was a link to the website. She went to the website, downloaded the book, read all of the book, started doing the worksheets right away, signed up to enrolled into the Building the Brain Cells game. She enrolled for 10 days of doing one worksheet a day. And after a couple of emails, and then she, back and forth with her and I, she decided that, on my recommendation, that she was at a place to do 5 worksheets a day, minimum. And that's what she's been doing. And so in 7 days, and if you're listening, Christina, and you want to plunge into taking a little deeper, well, then you can get on the phone and kind of share with us what it is. And she's been so willing to do her work, and that's where the real healing opens up. And I like what Jeannie had to say. And this being her 7th day, it sounds like that she's reached a layer that really has processed through some powerful things. So anyway, that's
like. Yeah, it sounds like what you'd rather do right now, and I would certainly support her in that. Is just be in the background and be in the space of listening, and at a point when it's appropriate to call in, if it's appropriate to call in, that would be awesome. So,
okay. So that's what's going on.
Awesome, fabulous. And is Terry with you this morning?
He was earlier, and he's gone to another location. I'm not sure if he's listening in on his phone or not.
Okay, we do have, and you're right, that is Christina on there, and so we'll just hold the space for her. But we do have Healing for Inner Peace, and this is someone from New Hampshire. And so this person's been in the chat room this morning, and I'm just now getting them turned on. You are on the air.
Namaste. I love the beauty that you're sharing, and it definitely, I do have a few questions, but it does sound very good. I am an energy healer myself, and I work with the Ascension process and work with people on my Blog Talk Radio show. And definitely sounds like, the process that you have through your worksheets does help them to release a lot of things from their subconscious and their past, which I think is very helpful. Sometimes people need something, as you know, something more physical and tangible for their own inner healing work. And I think it's definitely get a good feeling from the work that you do. So thank you for thank you for the work that you do.
Delighted. Appreciate your calling. And what was your name?
Mark, M-A-R-C. Mark.
Delight to meet you, Mark. Have you tapped into the worksheet process as yet, the reality management process?
Not as of yet, but I do plan on looking into it. That's a definite. And
cool.
One thing I've been looking for, too, is people with your background up for my show as well. Now, do you feel that working from the Ozark Mountains and the energy from the mountains helps you?
Well, we have a teaching center there. We're actually in Las Vegas, Nevada right now. Jeannie and I travel 6 to 10 months of the year all over the globe, and so we're doing workshops in Las Vegas and Pahrump, Nevada. We just finished doing an intensive in Tacoma Hot Springs over in California, just over the border here. And so we're really all over the globe, and our teaching center, which I spent years looking for a location for, it is in an awesome place in the Ozark Mountains in southern Missouri, where there is definitely an energetic space there that supports the opening and the process of healing. So we're blessed to have a property there that we're developing community and looking at all kinds of alternative, support living structures and waste processing systems and water systems and growing systems, and so we're doing a holistic type of process in bringing forward especially the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness. So if you,
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, what I would love to express to you, and also Michael as well, is that in the fall we're actually working on putting together a workshop with multi-facilitators in the White Mountains, which are here in New Hampshire, and where I want to have several different facilitators that are very high vibration that can really help in the ascension of everyone that attends. And at the end of this will be probably on the equinox, which is around September 22nd through that weekend. And then we're going to be going on a little hike to Mount Lafayette, where the portal is to the Crystal City of Light, into the vortex area, and see what happens. So if that resonates with you, let me know.
Yeah, Jeannie just gave out her email address, jeannie@whyagain.com. So drop her an email with the details of your show and what you're thinking of and what the parameters would be, and if it can fit into our travel schedule. Basically what we do is we usually accumulate requests for workshops, and then we look at where we have the most requests, and that's where we'll take our travel schedule. And when we do that, we pay our own expenses, and the workshops are free. If it's something that won't fit into a regular tour, and if there was an invitation to do a weekend like that, then we'd be looking at some sort of cost. But we'd certainly love to see how it might fit together with what we're doing. And our commitment is every mind, heart, and being on the planet. That's why we travel and do our work free. And so let's see how that marriage might happen. And so drop Jeannie an email. And if you want to pick up the reality management process and the instructions on that, you can go to www.whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side there's a link that says Download Worksheets, and if you click on that, the first two links, the first one is a set of instructions for how to do the process, and the second set of instructions is, or the second link is the actual worksheet itself. So you'd certainly be welcome to check that out. And, of course, you can download the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, free in English, German, Russian, Spanish, Farsi, and Arabic soon to come. There's lots happening in that regard. So delight to talk with you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you by email.
Yes, I'm already writing the email right now, so I'm working on it.
Awesome. Look forward to hearing it. See you.
All right. Love, light, and blessings.
Okay, thanks for the call. Blessings. Yeah, it's awesome and wonderful the number of people out there that are picking up and doing something different than the old dynamic of insanity on the planet, and it's really inspiring and encouraging wherever we go. Even in the smallest communities today, there's some kind of a center where people are doing real, true healing work and supporting people and moving into a different state than the old hostility and fear-based mind. So thank you for the work you're doing up there in New Hampshire, and we'll look forward to seeing how we might connect and help things to happen there. So, Jeannie, any other comments, thoughts, questions, answers, ideas?
No, there's some discussion going on about the different formats of doing a support group, and Tim has given some information about how they do it, and so we appreciate Tim for the support that he gives us, because he's been there to pick up when the phone drops or when the computer drops, or and he answers people in the chat room.
You
and
are awesome support, Tim. Thank you.
And Nene just made some comments that she had just been watching the On Creating Consciously, and that it was an incredible experience doing the meditation with the different states of wealth or poverty, and closing your eyes and going inside and finding what's blocking you from the past, and then doing worksheets on that. And so then Tim's given her some other information, and she says, I have continued working on Skype with my daughter who is in Venezuela. She is now seeing a moderate change in her income, so we look forward to doing more. My job with the TV is slow, but it's giving me more structure about my creativity. So awesome, and we are glad to have you on our team too, Nene. She's the one that's been doing a lot of the Spanish translations for us that's on our website. We now have a separate page that says Spanish Worksheets, and that's expanding, so we're getting there, and we just appreciate everybody that's had a part in making that happen.
Yeah, it's exciting to be developing this more for the Spanish community. We have, there's actually a young lady in South Florida back, 10 years ago that translated the book into Spanish, and that's what's on the website. And now there's a new energy coming around in that regard, as we work in Florida and as we work in Las Vegas, the Spanish community is coming forward and asking for this material and then supporting us and making it available. So it's really an awesome privilege to do that too.
Michael, there's a question about how to hold the space of love when doing the worksheets by yourself.
Okay. Well, one of the best ways that I know now, Jeannie has done a lot of work with people. She does private sessions over the phone, and she's done a lot of work with people over the years. And Jeannie, why don't you share the situation with the woman who her connection to love was her cat?
Well, yeah, this is a young lady in Georgia, and every time that we did worksheets together, she couldn't reconnect using, we usually use the image of holding a newborn because everyone knows that a newborn is just precious and awesome and beautiful and wonderful and all of those examples, and those are descriptors of who we are. But there's occasionally some people who have never had a child or never been around a newborn child, and they can't connect with that. They can't get that visual. Well, this lady was one of those, and she had never had anything to do with little children or anything like that, and so she just didn't have that experience. But she had a cat that she absolutely loved. And so she would actually go physically get her cat, pick it up, put it in her lap, and pet it to get reconnected. She would have to do that every time she did a worksheet. She'd have to go find her cat and bring it in, and the cat would hold the space. But she eventually got to the part where she could just visualize her cat instead of actually having to go get it. And so that was progress for her, that she could just then go into her memory and think of her cat, and then she could reconnect. Some people I've seen that, they have to go back and look at maybe when mom made them a batch of their favorite cookies and they sat together and had milk and cookies, or some other people it's like going to the beach and feeling the sand in your toes and the wind in your hair and hearing the surf. And some people it's flowers or colors. So everybody has something different that they use to get themselves back into a reconnected space, because the first part of the worksheet, you're stirring up stuff and getting it up in your face, and then it's real important to be able to totally reconnect to go on to the rest of it, because if you can't reconnect, you can't cancel the goal, you can't, move forward, and so it's a very important step in the process is reconnecting. And so different people use different methods of finding that reconnection.
Well, and in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, we usually offer a brief meditation, and we invite people to just get quiet and imagine holding a newborn. And when you hold that newborn, there's a tendency to be able to tap into the actual presence of love. And there's a gentleman named Jitendra Darling who we connected with last year, almost 2 years ago, I guess now, in San Diego. And he does a work where he had people he would ask them to smile, and as they smiled, he would invite them to put the energy into their eyes. And then when we kind of connected and explained that in the Aramaic language, the word rakma, when we were told the first law was we had to have rakma, is the word that was used in Aramaic when the Greeks translated as love, that you had to have love in your mind for God, neighbor, and self. In Aramaic, it was rakma, and it is actually a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain. And so there was this kind of click between our work, and Jitendra realized, it's really opening that frontal lobe, yes. And so we usually have someone, imagine holding the newborn, smile at the newborn as you would imagine a mother doing if you've never actually been the mother holding the newborn, and let the energy of your smile, actually let your lips turn upward and direct the energy up toward the eyes, toward the frontal lobes of the brain. And what that does is that turns on the heart, that connects and accentuates that energy of love. Some people never having the experience of the newborn go, well, I don't know how to relate to that. Or some people even, I hate newborns. They poop and they pee, and we actually had a young lady in the workshop this weekend, and that was an issue for her. And And as we invited her to move past it, all of a sudden, the next night we did a 2-day intensive. And maybe if she's there, she might call in and share. But if she happens to be listening to the show, I know she did last week. But that night after the intensive, we had a long day. We started at 9 in the morning, went till 10 at night. And that night she had a dream about a newborn baby. And the next day she shared, I got it. I just let go of that hate of newborns. And last night in my dream, I realized I birthed myself and came back to that connected space of love. And so that newborn energy is absolutely awesome as a way to open that space of love. And that's the way that I suggest that people tap in, whatever it is that will key you into love. And sometimes people don't have a newborn story, or I'm amazed how many times people will come up to me after the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop and say, well, Michael, I don't even know what you're talking about when you're talking about love. What do you even mean? And it's really bizarre in our culture that there are people who have been so far removed from the experience of their human lives, because that is our human life, the active presence of love. And so I usually offer people my newborn story, and that was as I was birthing my daughter myself at home, and her head delivered, and of course the child's not supposed to be able to focus and all those sorts of things. Well, my daughter opened her eyes as clear as any clear eyes are, totally focused right in on my face, a laser look at me, and a grin on her face that literally sent me into another dimension. And so if you don't have an experience like that, there's one you're welcome to borrow and tap into, and to build the brain cells for, and to create the experience of the direct being of love that you are. And that's the key to all of the healing that happens, because when we're connected directly to that love, there's nothing that we have made up. There's an interesting line in the Course in Miracles that says, problems are meaningless, but don't tell that to somebody who's in the middle of one, because you can get your head taken off, because people become invested in their stories and their pain and their traumas. And the truth is, all of your stories and all of your pain and all of your traumas are meaningless. All they are now are frequencies in your mind which will totally dissolve in the presence of love. Now, if you've denied and dissociated from that part of your mind, it's going to seem like, well, that's not changeable. I've tried. I've made new choices. I sat one whole day and I did lots of critical thinking about the way I behave and the way I feel and how it's not logical. And somebody told me, oh, just don't feel like that. And so I tried that, and it worked for 10 minutes until the next time the stress was up and the chips were down. And, yes, that's exactly what happens. And so when you realize that if you're dissociated from something, you can't change it. And what the Aramaic, the awesome gift that the Aramaic Yeshua gave us was the understanding that if you know how to collapse that dissociated mind and its projections, you come back into direct relationship with what you've hidden from yourself. And it does not matter how terrible the thing was that you did. It does not matter how terrible the thing was that was done to you. It is an energy in your structure that, when exposed to love, will dissolve. That's all. It will dissolve. And that's what that forgiveness process is about, is dissolving those things and stepping back to the active presence of love, to who we are, and functioning out of that. And that's what we're here to support every mind, heart, and being on the planet in doing. And we're glad to be on your support team. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts, our call-in number is 646-200-4169. We would be delighted to hear from you, your questions on your process, your comments on the tools, your experience, and especially if you have a question. I would love to help to refine your experience of the tools. So oftentimes when people will talk about, well, gee, I'm confused about this. I don't know what this step means. If you have a question like that, please, please, please. And of course, there's no need to identify yourself. If you want to remain anonymous with that, that's cool too. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that we can get to your questions and help to understand them, and then do our best to support you in moving through whatever those questions are, those refinements.
Well, at the risk of sounding like David, let me just say that
you should be so blessed.
Yeah, that's right. The best way to learn to hold that space of love when you're doing a worksheet alone is keep putting the pen to the paper. And we keep talking in our Tuesday group about making the step 5. We use the 12-step worksheet, making the step where you think of a loving thought for yourself and the other person, making that as experiential as possible. And sometimes we even take a break and do the love exchange, because the more we practice that exchanging love with another or practice it in the mirror, the easier it becomes to bring up that awareness of our source's love when we're doing the worksheet process. So the other thought I had was that recently somebody who's been exposed to the worksheet process now for about 4 years and does them, and when she has a real difficult situation, she'll pick up a worksheet. But she discovered just in this past 2-week period, she discovered that she's supposed to cancel her goal for the other person. So she's been using the worksheet process and getting quite a bit out of it, so she's been continually doing it for 4 years now. But she just discovered the idea of canceling the goal for the other person. So you got to keep going back. You've got to keep repeating it, and you've got to keep exposing yourself to the tools, because there's always another layer.
Yeah, that's very true. And one of the things I'll find people saying is, well, I didn't understand that step, so I stopped doing the worksheets. If you don't understand a step, skip over it and carry on with the worksheet. There are a whole series of tools built into that worksheet, and so if there's one step or another you don't get, carry on, keep doing it. As Dr. Tim says, put the pen to the paper and keep walking through it, and new spaces will open. And Tim, you bring up the love exchange that we teach in the work. Would you be interested in just sharing with people how that works, the instructions for it, and for those who don't know what it is, perhaps they'll start to practice it and use that tool, which is just one more of the tools that we teach.
All right. Well, we pair off, and we decide who's going to go first and who's going to go second. And the person who's going to go second just sits and watches while the first person closes their eyes and focuses on whatever thoughts are going to bring up the most loving, warm sensation in their heart center, and then strengthens those thoughts and the feelings around it until they feel that warmth, that energy of love that is their source, and stay consciously connected with that. And then when they're ready, they open their eyes and imagine sending through their eyes, sending that energy to their partner who's watching them and waiting to receive it. And the person receiving is just there to experience whatever they experience when the sender is sending them love through their eyes. And you might imagine that they were sending water, like a water pistol, through their eyes to the other person. And the receiver's idea, the idea for the receiver is to just be aware of whatever they're sensing. And then the receiver can choose to pass his or her hand between their eyes and the other person's eyes, and notice if they feel a change of sensation on their hand as they move it in line of the energy that's being sent to them. And then as they move their hand again, they can place their awareness on their face and notice if they feel a difference on their face as the energy gets blocked by their hand passing between the two sets of eyes. And the whole purpose of the exercise is to experience what it's like for me when I focus my conscious awareness on my center, my source as love, and as the receiver, for me to experience what it's like when someone is sitting across from me trying to send that energy of love through their eyes to me. And of course, when you do that exercise, you're always suggesting that our assignment is that we practice that exercise several times a day for the rest of our lives, and if we don't have a partner to send the energy of love to, that we practice that energy or that exercise in a mirror, sending the love from my eyes to myself in the mirror and experiencing it that way.
Yeah, and even if somebody isn't there to do it is powerful. And actually, Tim, the suggestion that I make is that you do it several times a day, not for the rest of your life, but for eternity. Let's go for eternity here.
I sit corrected.
Yeah, let's go for eternity.
Well, it's a powerful experience, and as you say, the more you make the worksheet process experiential, the more powerful each worksheet is for you, because the healing mechanism in the worksheet process is exposing something that is painful or fearful to the energy of love. And that's, the better I get at focusing my conscious awareness on my source as love, the better that works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, of course, we live in a world, an exercise I like to offer to people is take a piece of paper and draw a quarter-inch margin down one side of the page and sit in front of the television set, and every time you hear a word that's actually based in love, that's actually based in that energy that you would describe as that newborn presence of love, put a check mark on the page. And then every time you hear a word based in hostility or fear, put a check mark on the page. And what most people experience is the quarter-inch margin is more than enough for all the words they'll hear about love, and hostility and fear will just be filled up page after page after page. And our culture has gotten to the point where it's almost it's just this thing of such non-human experience, such hostility, such fear, such satiation, such craziness, when we could be having a human life instead. And that's what we're here to support everyone in having, is a totally, completely human life. The active presence of love in your mind, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, of course, there are other realities to live in. Everybody makes a choice. And so we're here to support you in making the choice to be the active presence of love in your life. 24/7, 365, your birthright. And then to be willing to forgive, that is, remove everything unlike that love, so that you come back to the experience of your human life 24/7, 365, whatever's going on in your world. And when you bring that presence to your experience of life, oh my goodness, does everything shift. Everything shifts. And all the stuff that seemed so meaningful yesterday, all the stuff that seemed so terrible, simply starts to disappear. Of course, then you get the opportunity to do the next layer of work that you have. And until you've literally cleaned up your whole genetic structure, and you get to the point where your physiology is incapable of producing any form of hostility or fear. And, of course, people say, well, who do you know that's done it? Well, I don't know anybody personally who's all the way there, and I include myself in that, because here we are. The task is one of cleaning up 1,000 generations. The geneticists, when they first started to research the human genome, were talking about how 90 to 95% of our DNA was junk DNA, had no use, it meant nothing. And they're revising that now, but the truth is, what's written there is our whole genetic bloodline, every thought, every feeling, every reality of every generation. And those generations are always calling to us to buy into what they thought was true, to buy into the hostilities and fears they thought were necessary to protect themselves. And that was called living in the desert. And you remember that story about living in the desert. What had to happen to get out of the desert? The old generation had to die off. Did not mean everybody in old physical bodies had to physically die. The root of the word generation is genari. It means cause. All of the old causes held in the mind from the generations have to be removed to get back to an actual human life. and we're here to support you doing that. It's not always fun, not always Dr. Feel Good, but oh my goodness, is it worthwhile.
Michael?
Yes, sweetie.
We have another caller, and 949, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, 949. I think that's Southern California, isn't it?
It is, yep.
Where are you, and what's your name?
My name's Joni. I'm in Mission Viejo in California.
Oh, cool.
Orange County.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love everything you're saying. It just so absolutely resonates with me on every single level. I haven't gone through any of your worksheets or anything. I haven't really looked into all that yet. I've just been listening. And I absolutely love your story where you were talking about your daughter when she was first born.
I'll tell you, that was such an awesome experience. We birthed her at home, and it was actually a Friday afternoon when we realized that my wife was in labor, and we had a classroom in our home at this time. We were living in North Atlanta. Had a classroom in our home, and I had a class scheduled that weekend. And it was about, probably 1 in the afternoon when we realized that labor was happening, just to kind of complete the story. And there was a fellow who was driving up from South Florida for the workshop, and, of course, that wasn't there weren't cell phones around 30 years ago. And so we couldn't contact him, and so it's like, well, I guess we have to go ahead with the workshop. So instead of canceling, which I normally would have done, we went ahead, and at 7 o'clock, when people started to arrive for the workshop, I went and answered the front door with a baby in my arms, and said, oh, isn't she cute? How old is she? I said, 4 hours. And they were like, no, I don't believe that. She was born at 3:40 in the afternoon, and at 6:30, 7 o'clock, I was greeting people. And it was interesting because I went down to the classroom. I did a 23-hour weekend lecture, and I started to present my material. And what I found was, after that intense, awesome experience of the presence of love from my daughter coming into her form, I couldn't think a thought. I found out years later that it's a state that Buddhist monks work toward. It's a state called no mind. I had no mind. I couldn't think a thought. And the only analogy I could come up with was like my brain and my lips were buttered, and it was just direct. I didn't think it before I said it. It was just there. And I actually stopped the class because what was coming out of my mouth was so awesome. I stopped the class and went up and got a tape recorder and recorded it because it was just so awesome, and it didn't come from my mind, and so I started to understand at that point experientially what it meant to be out of your mind, and out of our mind means we're into being, and we're the newborn coming in, I think, is designed to give us that direct experience. And of course, we live in a culture that says, no, Mom, you're supposed to be drugged and out of the picture. You have nothing to do with this. And Dad, you're supposed to be out getting drunk and giving out cigars. Don't be home for this direct, present experience of love. And so we're.
Oh, that's an incredible story. I like the full story. That's beautiful.
It was awesome. It is one of the absolute highlights of my life, having had that experience.
Well, definitely that pure vibration of love. Absolutely. Wow. I had a moment when my first son was born where he, the newborns, how they stay up so much and it's hard to get any sleep and schedule and all that stuff. And I was just exhausted, and he was on my shoulder, and I thought, I can't take any more of this. And I look over at him, and he gave me the sweetest little smile, that drunken little smile, and my whole body just went, oh, my gosh, I was just in love. So,
got it.
A little bit of that.
I can feel it.
Yeah, I can feel your story. I get goosebumps when you say your story, so. I'm an intuitive. I'm also a life coach. I don't know why I don't like the word coach very much, but guide. And everything you're talking about, it's like I've had to really work on it my whole life because I've had a lot of moodiness up and down. I've had a lot of, the stories of childhood, the difficult stories you go through. And so I've had to really get into what creates that emotion and how your thoughts are connected. And I've really been doing all that for my whole life. So I love hearing all your stuff. because I've had to heal. Like, I found that when I healed certain things, it really passed down the generations and healed in my children. I could see a difference in that. Yeah, and so I felt like, this is kind of my gift to them when I heal myself. And actually to my mother, too, the other generational side. And, because it's all just that energy. So, yeah. And I'm working on I like doing vision boards, and I'm working on a workshop around that. But I'm just wondering, what do you suggest to make, like, a vision board process more impactful for where it really does change, the wiring and manifest? Because, you can't make a picture and then expect that to manifest. That's not going to work. You know what I'm saying?
Well, again, the core tool that we teach, and you might want to just jump on the website and grab the Reality Management Worksheet instructions, because if we go to put something in that we want, but there is a conflicting or opposite frequency in us, what that something does is resonate the opposite frequency, and if we don't process out the opposite frequency, that's what gets empowered, and that's what tends to show up. So that, to me, is why the forgiveness process is so urgent, is that, okay, I want to manifest I want to create total absolute love in my life and my relationships, but if I hold a place in my mind that says, well, I always get abused in relationships, if I never allow myself to collapse that dissociated state and clean that out, then what the thought of absolute loving relationships resonates is, I always get abused in relationships. So the high energy wave, I had the privilege about 30 years ago of getting to do some work with a fellow named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Marcel had the instrumentation in the laboratory with which to take the pictures of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. That's how we manifest. We're resonant devices that just bring things to us according to what we hold. So if I go awesome relationship, but what resonates in the dissociated mind, and the scriptures was called the heart, and you remember they said take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. If in my head I go awesome relationship and I won't process what's in my dissociated mind or my heart, then what I get is a psychic megaphone message that goes out and says, hey, world, I'm supposed to be abused in relationship. Are there any abusers out there? And, of course, there's always a volunteer who will go up to play off of that. And so the forgiveness process is about collapsing that dissociated state so that I can clean out that abuse. And then I go, awesome relationship. On an unconscious level, it's consistent. I deserve awesome relationship, and a clear frequency goes out. Is there anybody in town that's ready to create an awesome relationship? Guess who's coming to dinner? So that would be my suggestion. Jeannie has a cool vision board story. Maybe she'd share it with us. Jeannie, would you share that? What happened for us or for you on the vision board you created a few years back?
Well, we're actually down to less than a minute, but I'll try to do it real quickly. We were at a friend's house, and it was over the Christmas holidays, and we were snowed in, and there wasn't anything to do. And so I had never done a vision board before. I had no clue what it was. And so they just pulled out all these magazines, and they said, just go through and pick out all the pictures that you like and just whatever. And so they gave us poster boards, and we just sat there all day gluing pictures and just playing. I put it up. Didn't think anything else of it. And then, 3 years passed, and Michael and I were in Sweden, and a lot of the churches in Sweden are just kind of like museums. And so we were, going through, taking all these pictures and all of this, and walked into this one absolutely awesome sanctuary, and it had all these stained glass windows and everything. And I took a picture, and as soon as my camera flashed, I was like, oh, my God. It was the exact picture that was on my treasure board. And so then when we got back home, I dug my treasure board out and started looking, and there was at least 10 things on my treasure board that had come true, and I hadn't even paid attention to it.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That was awful. I was on the other side of this church, and I hear this shriek. It's like, what's happening? This is the picture on the same window from the same angle. Here she is 3 years later taking the picture. Our show is over. Out of your eternal life, please get somebody else to join you tomorrow's show. We want to take this to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.